Have you ever found yourself haunted by a moment you didn't see coming, a sudden shift that changed everything? That's where today's story begins. A seemingly normal Friday night with friends, a familiar laugh, a shared meal, and then, in an instant, a line crossed, a life gone, and the endless search for understanding that follows. Stay with us as we step into that fragile space between memory and regret, where the past meets the present, and a father's hope for his son becomes a quiet prayer for redemption. That prayer, of course, coming from the deepest corners of your mind.
I remember it like it was yesterday. We were all hanging out at the Burger King, like we usually did on a Friday night after a game. Danny was with us, just like he always was. He was his usual self, laughing, throwing fries at Steve. Everything seemed normal, just a normal Friday night, you know? Except it wasn't. I remember my mom woke me up the next day, shook me awake. "Billy," she said, "wake up. Wake up." Wasn't exactly happy with my mom waking me up on a Saturday morning, but deep down inside I knew something had to be wrong. She would have let me sleep otherwise. "Billy, Danny's gone." I was wide awake then. After we all left Burger King, Danny, he apparently went home and got his dad's gun out of a drawer. His parents weren't home. You can guess the rest. They asked all of us afterwards, were there any warning signs? Not to us. Hell, he was hanging with us like he always did, joking around. Nothing seemed to be wrong. Except, obviously, it was. I remember hearing this Don Henley song not too long after it happened. You know that song of his, New York Minute? There's a line in it. One day he crossed some line and he was too much in this world. Got the chills when I heard that the first time. Danny came right into my mind. We had no way of knowing, but apparently Danny had crossed some line. And that was that. That song goes on, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore. But it did matter. Danny was gone. We that knew him were left to pick up the pieces. I remember being at the funeral. His mom was a wreck, of course. She hugged us all. We did our best to console her. But what can teenage kids really do in those situations, huh? We do the best we can, I suppose. It's the first time I had really experienced a loss like that. I mean, as I was growing up, there were funerals for relatives, I guess. But they never really hit me. Not until Danny. You ask me about a loss of innocence? I guess that was mine. Right there. On a Saturday morning, crying and screaming into my pillow. Praying for it not to be true. Knowing it was. Another Don Henley song just came into my mind. The End of the Innocents. Sorry, I'm a fan of the guy, what can I say? 35 years later, here I am. I'm married, raised a few kids of my own. Gained so much during that time. Sure, I've lost a lot along the way as well. nothing really compared to that loss we all felt in high school. For the rest of the year after it happened, nothing made sense. Nothing seemed real. Which is why I guess I'm thinking about it now. Danny. Not my high school friend, but my oldest boy. Yeah, I know. I didn't tell my wife why I insisted on the name when he was born, till much later. She gave me hell about it when she found out, of course. She didn't go to high school with us. She didn't know my best friend, Danny. She does now, though. Finally worked up the nerve to see a therapist, and with her help, I finally got up the nerve to share stories about him, Danny, with my wife. She doesn't mind our boy's name now. She's glad to know the memory of my best friend kind of lives in our boy. Kind of. Sorry, got off track there again. My boy, Danny, always seemed to be a happy-go-lucky kid, you know? But lately the light's kind of gone out of his eyes. Just a little. A father can tell, you know, if he's paying attention. And if there's one thing I do, it's pay attention. I don't have guns in the house, just not my thing. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about everything else. He's a teenage boy, so of course he's resistant to any attempt to get anything out of him. After much protesting, my wife and I, we got him to see a therapist himself. We think it's helping. We think. But one day he crossed some line and he was too much in this world. With all my might, I pray every night to God, please don't let my Danny cross that line. Help him. Let us help him. Let us help him to not cross that line. So that's why I'm here today, Danny, at your gravestone. Haven't been here in years. Yeah, I know. Time unfortunately fades the memory, doesn't it? The obligation. But being here now, it all comes back to me. That last Friday night, laughing, joking, not a care in the world, not knowing what was to come. Missing you, Danny, my best friend, to this day. But I'm going to do my damnedest not to let the boy who bears your name cross that line. Please, God, give me whatever strength is needed to not let that happen. Don't want to think about you being in the ground, Danny. I'd like to still think you're somehow up there. And if you are, maybe put in a good word for me, would you? With the big guy. Help it so we don't cross that line. Goodbye, Danny. Be seeing you.
If you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, please call 988 in the United States or text 741741 to speak to trained crisis counselors. Reach out. You are not alone. You are loved. You are needed. Peace be with you from the corners of your mind.